Especially on mid-stakes and below, the fastest way to an exceptional win rate isn't trying to play closer to GTO. Learning game theory and applying it is an essential part of being a great player. But it is also very hard. After analyzing tens of millions of hands on mid-stakes and below, I can tell you that for a much easier way to maximize your profits quickly, you want to be a treasure hunter. In this hand, Nacho opens from the hijack and Daniil Vasilev 3-bets king-queen suited in the small blind. Nacho calls. Both players are some of the best in the world, so assuming preflop ranges that are close to GTO will be our best guess. In an extended research that I did on population's preflop tendencies, I explored that this is not the case for most spots that occur on mid-stakes and below. So you would be able to already adjust your preflop ranges and exploit the average regular's preflop mistakes. However, for this spot, the best exploitative range you could play from the small blind actually doesn't differ much from the GTO solution. So in this hand, this is not the spot where the treasure is hidden. On the flop, Daniil c-bets 55% pot, which is a slightly worse option than 30% in theory, because 30% would make more use of the small blind's overall range advantage by forcing Nacho to call more hands. That allows Daniil to get more value with not only his great hands, but also his good to medium hands like weak top pairs and under pairs. His actual hand does of course benefit from the additional fold equity that a bigger bet achieves. And as a treasure hunter, using different bet sizes according to what they achieve is an exploit that can be used to increase your overall profitability. It's like finding little nuggets of gold that fill your pockets with a small profit. But of course, this is a huge sin according to GTO, and should therefore only be used against weaker players. Aware opponents, who don't even have to be on Nacho's level, will figure this imbalance out over time, so using only one c-bet size not only protects you from being re-exploited, but also reduces your number of decisions. Against this bet, the hijack would call all gut shots and flush draws, as well as top pairs and better. Under pairs would be indifferent and mix calls and folds. The 2 on the turn has to slow Daniil down, because the hijack improves to a lot more straights than the small blind. 5-4 suited and Ace-4 suited simply make up a bigger portion in the hijack's range than in the small blinds. And while Nacho's worst hand would at least be a gut shot here, Daniil will still have hands exactly like this, airballs with very little equity, which makes the bottom part of his range worse than Nacho's. So Daniil's range can only c-bet 25% of the time, assuming he'd bet GTO Wizard's most preferred size of 80% pot. Against the check, the hijack would have basically no reason not to bet any hand that is 2-pair or better. Instead, checks would come from some top pairs at best, and a lot of hands that hope to make it to showdown, or are looking to complete their draw. And this is where you can show how much of a treasure hunter you are. Because if you played this hand on mid-stakes or lower, arriving at this spot means you just found a chest. But that doesn't mean anything yet. You could simply ignore it, not thinking anything of it. Or even if you think or know that there's a treasure in it, you could simply not have the key to open it. Which would mean no profit for you. In poker, the hidden treasure is being in this node you've gotten into. Because the average player on mid-stakes and lower makes a big mistake in this exact spot. And knowing of that mistake is being aware that there's a treasure in this chest. And knowing how to exploit it is literally the key to your profit. So what is it? Well, in this line, so the call, check, fold node in 3-bet pots in position on ace-high boards, population overfolds against the bet by around 10 percentage points. Instead of folding 40% of their range on average, which would be the GTO frequency, they fold 50% of their range, which is a huge opportunity for us as the out of position 3-better to exploit them. And how do we do that? Of course, by bluffing more often. But how much more often? Do we just bet every bluff we have in our range? Or do we add one or two more? And which ones would be the best? Let's have a look. So in GTO, assuming we only bet 75% of the pot or check, we see that the GTO frequency would be betting a little bit more than 50% of the time here. Top pairs and better would mix bets and checks. Under pairs, so all of these pocket pairs would mostly check. And then second pairs and worse, so pretty much bluffing hands would mostly check. But king highs especially are the biggest bluffs. And then everything worse than that would mix in bluffs in 40% of the time. And looking at how the hijack would react to a bet, we will see that they would fold around 46% of the time. Everything that is better than top pair would never fold. Two pair and better would always raise. However, only ace 4 and 4-5 are really in that category here. And under pairs, so kings through pocket 10s would mostly fold. Second pairs, so only 10-9 would mostly call. And everything worse than that would either fold or not be in the range very much. So if we assume an overfold for this player, which is what the average player on mid-stakes is doing, then we can go ahead and increase this folding frequency a little bit. So let's say instead of 46% of the time, they would fold 51% of the time here. So a little bit more often, which the data shows. So the data shows 10 percentage points overall, but we have to remember that this is for all ace high boards. So in this particular instance, I would think that going for 10%, which would be 56% of the time, might be a little bit optimistic. So here, nothing that is not top pair would ever call except for a little bit of 10-9. So let's be a little bit more conservative and say that queens would sometimes call and 10-9 would also sometimes call, which already will tell us the direction we want to go to as the small blind. So now we will log all these hands and run the simulation again. And now what we'll see is that for us as the small blind, we bet a lot more often. So before it was around 52% of bets, now it's at 68%. And especially the bluffing region increased. So everything that is third pair, those bet almost all the time. King high bets virtually every time. And even hands lower than that would increase their bluffs a little bit. Comparing that to the GTO frequency, we see that third pairs and worse would only bluff at 47%. And in this exploitative approach, these hands bet more than 83% of the time. So almost double the amount of bluffs that we can go for here. And of those bluffs, King Queen is a pure bluff here, which wouldn't be the case in GTO. So here, this hand would be a mix. And we also see that the EV of bluffing has increased drastically. So here, of course, as it is a mixing hand, the EVs of betting and checking will be close. So let's just take this hand that we were looking at. King Queen of Hearts is going to be at 0.74 big blinds in EV. But now when we expect the hijack to overfold, this number has gone up to 3.9. So more than 3 big blinds that we make additionally here only with this exact combo, which is a lot. And then let's quickly look at which hands we don't want to bluff. So the only hands we don't want to bluff here that are third pair and lower are these Jack 10, Queen 10, and Queen Jack of spades combos. And that is obviously for a reason, because what we can see is that these hands block a lot of our opponent's folds, which will come from King Queen of spades, Queen Jack of spades, Jack 10 of spades. So basically the same combos we would not want to bluff here. And also a lot of those hands block the jacks that have a spade and queens that have a spade, because those hands would be calling the flop much more often than the other combos, and therefore are a big part of the hijack's folding region when we get to this river. If you want to find these golden lines, you need to know the ways to make use of them, so the keys, and to know of them in the first place. And showing you these golden lines and teaching you how to profit off them is what I do in my new membership, GTO to Exploit. In there, you get info on which lines are the most profitable and how you can exploit your player pool in all kinds of nodes. That way, you'll never miss a golden opportunity by overlooking the hidden value in a spot or by not being able to unlock it. So if you're interested in making your win rate exceptional in the easiest way, check it out in the first link in the description. An additional benefit of knowing population's mistakes is that whenever you do get caught bluffing, which will still happen of course, 50% of the time in this spot to be exact, you won't get haunted by your uncertainty, simply because you know you made the right play. And the long run is your friend. Of course, this isn't the only line you can find golden. So if you want to learn how to maximize your profit in 3-bet pots in triple barrel spots, check out this video next to see if this line by Lana's Love would be the most profitable on mid stakes as well.